Okay, I just wanted to make this one video that will address some things that we have going on over here that I haven't really directly addressed so much so far, but I will now. Okay, so over here you can see keyboard CV1, keyboard CV2. What does that mean? Okay, well, all the way back in the dark ages, when the ARP 2600 came out, there was this concept that it was realized that while you couldn't make a polyphonic keyboard synthesizer controller very effectively, you could use both high note priority and low note priority on the same keyboard. So you had a set of sensors that would recognize the highest voltage and play that, and a set of sensors that would recognize the lowest voltage and play that. So then you could have two voltages present on one keyboard. Of course, you could say, well, why couldn't you have three? It's because there wasn't an electronic way to say, okay, what's the middlest voltage between the two high and low? So people, including Tom Oberheim, started modifying keyboard controllers for the ARP 2600 so that they had this power, because then you could play an ARP 2600 with a duophonic skill. And then when the ARP keyboard controller for the 2600, the 3620 came out, it had that functionality built into it. So on the M, the 2600M, we want to have the ability, we don't have the original controller, we have the Korg microkey, but we want to be able to play polyphonically, well, duophonically, unarticulated duophonically, although I did show you in another video where you could get kind of articulated duophony. Anyway, so if you want to play two notes at a time, this is how you do it. It's super simple. You just go over here to your keyboard 2, keyboard CV2, and then you direct that to one of the oscillators. I'll just go in through the keyboard CV. Okay, first, it sounds like this. If you play two notes, you get the lowest note. Because the high note priority can't happen at the same time as the low note priority, and the ARP 2600 is inherently low note priority. So you can play lower and lower notes, but if you try to play higher notes, nothing happens, although I am hearing retriggering, which is a thing I think you can set with the dip switches on the side. I need to look into that. Anyway, but if you want to play two notes at a time, take your keyboard CV2 out and plug it into one of your oscillators that is audible, and then play two notes. Now, you will sometimes get kind of weird artifacts and side effects because once you have to release your fingers in just such a way that it doesn't whip back to monophonic, because then you'll hear the note that you were playing that was the second note whip down to the first note, which may not be a bad thing. You might be able to use it. But when you have your filter settings just right and your amp settings just right, you can do things like this. So yeah, it's really effective. You can pretty much fake polyphony really well with duophony. So this is worth its weight in gold. You know, you just went from having a monophonic synthesizer to a duophonic synthesizer that you can kind of fake polyphony with, and it's really, really cool. The other thing that we have here is the mod CV, and basically this is I'm going to guess this is coming into the ARP 2600M via USB MIDI from the Korg micro key, and it is the output of the mod wheel on the micro key, which is really fun because then you have, some expressive capability here. You can, do your thing. For example, let's, I'm going to plug it into oscillator 1. I'm going to disable, I'm going to turn this down for a second. Well, there's an octave. Okay, I've just made it so that the mod wheel on the Korg micro key will push the frequency of oscillator 1 up a fifth. So then if we bring back the Duophony, we can do things like this. Which is really cool. I mean, you can, by doing that, you give the impression that you've got more going on than you do. Anyway, so that is how to cause duophony to happen on the Korg ARP 2600M. And of course, there's also a multiple down here. So if you have a voltage or an audio signal that you want to direct to two different places, you can plug your source in anywhere in any of the three multiples and then take cables out of these multiples and direct the audio or the control voltage where you would also like it to go. I would encourage you to sometimes direct one of them into the voltage processor so like you could change it and then direct it somewhere else. So you've basically taken the same signal and made it into two signals that do slightly different things. Anyway, those are these jacks here down in the bottom left-hand corner of the Korg ARP 2600M.